All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. It's great to have you here. And this is our last of the Ocean Literacy Dialogue series. This is the 7th session. We have had a full week, and it's been an incredible collection and series of discussions that we've had, each on different topics. Tonight is on ocean literacy as a policy tool. This is our biggest panel yet. This is a powerhouse team. Before I turn it over to the powerhouse team, just to share in case this is someone's first Ocean Literacy Dialogue session, that's great. It's the Ocean Literacy Dialogues is an initiative of the Ocean Literacy with All program, which is a UN decade endorsed program led by IOC UNESCO, together with a large team of global partners as part of the OLWA community. This is the 3rd edition here in Canada. The first edition took place at the UN Ocean Conference in Lisbon, Portugal in June. The 2nd edition took place in Santos, Brazil in October, and Canada has the pleasure of hosting the 3rd edition. The Canadian Ocean Literacy Coalition, together with MARSOC-SCI, the Marine Social Sciences Network, have co-organized this session. So thank you so much for being here. Before we turn over to the moderator, who will introduce the panelists, we have the privileged opportunity of having Peter Thompson with us. And some of you probably caught him this morning in the keynotes, but he wanted to drop in. He's been an incredible supporter of the ocean literacy community over the last few years, and we're just really lucky to have you join us tonight to say a few words.
Thank you very much. And I do apologize again for my voice. I assure you I'm on the mend and that it is not COVID. Okay. So I'm here croaking through this session because ocean literacy is one of my chief passions. I was once asked, Francesco was reminding me, by The Economist, if you had $1 billion, what would you spend it on for ocean action? And my response, without even thinking about it, was just education. You know, we can't progress in ignorance. And this is where the UN decade is important, the UN decade of ocean science. It's estimated we only know about 20% of the science of the ocean. And yet people are wanting to make planet-changing decisions in terms of ocean activities, which, you know, would be made from a position of ignorance, because the position of ignorance is that we only know 20% of the scientific properties of the ocean. So let's let the decade run until 2030, find out what science delivers for us, give us the science we need for the ocean that we want, as the saying goes, before we start making these very big decisions, which we may have to make in 2030. And, you know, God forbid that we do have to do real sort of geoengineering efforts, but science will tell us whether we need to or not, whether nature-based solutions will be sufficient. So, you know, when I think back to my education, I did actually get one at Suva Grammar School in Fiji. We were never taught anything about the ocean. The only thing we were taught was big map on the wall, Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, the naming of the ocean, which of course is totally wrong. Got to take all those names away, take them all off, you know, and then to have a look at the planet then, and you see this Moana, the ocean. It's just one ocean with many features. First principle ocean literacy. So that's a battle which we have to keep fighting, folks. And please also, when you're fighting for the singular, also fight against the possessive, right? Because the ocean's going to be there, who knows in what state over this pace of ocean acidification and ocean warming, but the ocean will be there for as long as this planet exists. We will not be. So where's the arrogance in calling it ours? You know, it's like the Roman Empire, Mare Nostrum. Well, you know, we can all have a laugh about that now. There'll be a bunch of octopuses with sunglasses on sitting in the beach, you know, a million years time. They used to call that our ocean, as if they owned everything on the planet. So that's, you know, I joke about it, but it's actually what's got us into a lot of our problems today, that we think the planet is just there for us to exploit, that it's a, you know, process of linear exploitation of finite planetary resources. I mean, even a primary school kid can tell you that doesn't work. You get to the end, and then what? You fall off a precipice, or you bang into a wall. It doesn't work. You know, we've got to go to the circular system that nature has taught us is the only way to live on this planet. And again, that's, you know, ocean literacy. We rely on the good people involved to get that message across to our societies. This meeting is about policy. I have to run away because I'm going to a dinner with the ocean panel. And if you talk about policy, that is a body of 17 heads of government, including most of the people in this room, that your heads of government are on that panel. And they are being informed by science on that panel and in the decisions they make and in the influence that they have on their peers in the world. And a very significant head of state. Have a look at the ocean panel and you'll see the caliber of leadership involved. So that's why I have to run away. But, you know, I do want to make that point that, you know, there is not actually a gap between all that we're talking about and policy. It's there, it's under consideration. It doesn't get enough consideration, which is why, you know, people like us kick and shout and carry on, as we must, to make sure that the ocean gets its due consideration. And when I talk about the ocean now, I talk about more about biodiversity, because I think that is the supreme concern for all of us. Biodiversity means life. And over 90% of the life is in the ocean, so it's the same thing. And too many of these meetings since Montreal just don't even mention the global biodiversity framework. You know, everybody's got their own special interests. They're too busy with those to think about what actually happened in Montreal, which was probably the greatest multilateral victory we've had since I don't know when. Maybe Paris Climate Agreement equals it in scale. But this was humanity saying life is about to go extinct the way the dinosaurs went extinct, unless we meet these targets of the global biodiversity framework. Yeah, and that's the level of decision that was made in Montreal. And fantastic that all of us, China, led by China, all of us got together and said, okay, we'll adopt these targets. One of which, of course, is 30 by 30, which is why I'm here in Vancouver, not for any other reason than to say, let's put some teeth in a 30 by 30. Let's find out the best places, preserve life in the ocean, the best places, so that 30% is meaningful for life. And let's find new ways of funding it, because what we have with ODA and philanthropy and so on at present is not enough to fund that 30%. We know we're doomed to failure if we follow existing financial procedures. So really, those are my main things. I do want you to know that Francesca has promised she's going to be helping me putting together this letter that I'm going to be writing to every Minister of Education on the planet to say that we want the principles of ocean literacy taught in schools, that our children must not be brought up with that terrestrial mindset which we were taught as kids, that they must see the planet as a whole. And, you know, 90% of life is in the ocean, so they must be taught about the ocean. So thanks very much for listening to me, and I hope you have a really good discussion.
Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you so much. I think I'll come to his place, maybe to be inspired by all that while moderating this panel and having the possibility to look for all the presenters. So I am Patrícia Furtado de Mendonça, the founder of Aquamater and one of the members of our beautiful program, Ocean Literacy with All. And I have to put the glasses, otherwise I'll not read. Yes. So, we all know that we are under the UN Ocean Decade, and we are supposed to move from the ocean we have to the ocean we want, because we are used to play ourselves at the center of everything, isn't it? The ocean we have. Do we have the ocean? I have that question. And the ocean we want. And what if the ocean were at the center of everything, and its motto was, from the humanity we have to the humanity we want? I think we would be in trouble, because it would try to defend itself from ourselves. Another day, I was at a panel called We Are the Ocean, and our colleague Nathan Bennett, that were here before, asked a question to Anne Singeo from Palau about rights of nature. And she said that her language didn't have a word for right, because this concept doesn't exist since people are supposed to take responsibility towards nature. Since we don't have responsibility towards nature, we need to create laws, regulations, procedures, protocol to govern it, isn't it? To control or to defend, even from ourselves. So this session will highlight 4 different types of policy changes and the role and the relevance of ocean literacy as a tool, as a vehicle to drive us in this direction, a catalyst, even to inform about policy. And now I will present our presenters. So, in the field of marine protected areas and conservation, I invite you to listen in some seconds, not now, Manju Ravindra. She's the Senior Advisor at Marine Conservation for Parks Canada. After her, we'll talk about municipalities. And we have here Ronaldo Cristofoletti, a professor at the Sea Institute from the Federal University of São Paulo. And we have Nicola Bridge, Head of Ocean Advocacy and Engagement of Ocean Trust. Regarding education, we have Francesca Santoro, the Senior Program Officer at IOC UNESCO and Coordinator of the Ocean Literacy with All Program of the UN Ocean Decade. Carlos Fonta is online, he will gather us, and he's a marine engineer from Chile. To talk about marine shipping, we'll have here Megan Madison, Director of Strategy and Innovation of Clear Seas. And we'll start now with Manju. So the floor is yours.
As you prefer. My notes are on my phone. Hi, everyone. I apologize. I also am losing my voice, as I'm sure many people here are today. So I work. What have I done? Oh, I work with Parks Canada as a senior advisor for marine conservation, and there are 3 of us nationally. We have different bailiwicks. My bailiwick is the human dimensions of marine conservation. So under that falls coastal community well-being, ocean literacy, marine tourism, and other things. We work pretty collaboratively. Je vais parler pour les francophones ici aujourd'hui. Je vais parler en anglais, mais si vous avez des questions, me posez en français après. Ou en bas, je serai au Archipel des Jeunes dans le Ocean Expo. So you can find me in the Ocean Expo after, as I do have to dash out to a speed dating event after a few minutes. Speed dating, Parks Canada's new National Marine Conservation Area policy, because policies are fun. So some of you may have been at the launch this week. We did launch our new National Marine Conservation Area policy, and that's why Diz asked me to come and say a few words about how we integrated ocean literacy into the policy. It's kind of an interesting tale. We have now explicitly included ocean literacy in our policy. I was one of the drafters of the policy, and as I was telling Diz and Emma earlier, probably wrote the words ocean literacy about 100 times in the early draft, and it stayed in once. But I think it kind of comes back to something Peter was saying about he's, meeting with the high level ministers and decision makers, but it's people, often people like ourselves who are the ones with the typewriters or the computers as it is now, who are at these meetings, work policy, who are able to plant ideas that then the high level people are supporting. So it's going from both directions. My minister doesn't know that our policy talks about ocean literacy. Probably not yet, but yeah, they will know, they will find out. So ocean literacy is a really natural fit for Parks Canada. It fits with the way our mandate is constructed, because really our mandate is to protect and conserve nature for the benefit and enjoyment of Canadians and our visitors from around the world. And what we really want to do with this benefit and enjoyment idea is to engage people so that they fall in love. And we all know that it's a human thing. We protect the things we love. We take care of the things we love. So in Parks Canada, our version of protection is very anthropocentric, right? We really have humans involved in it because otherwise it doesn't work for us. So maybe we could show the video really quickly, Meg, so that you can sort of see how we're trying to integrate humans, nature, and building of a conservation ethic. Or maybe it won't work. If it doesn't work, it's fine. We can just. Okay. Thanks. So my team just put this video together for Impact 5 because we wanted something to kind of show what the way we were thinking about national marine conservation areas, and also to set ourselves a little bit apart from what Parks Canada has historically done with national parks, because national marine conservation areas involve the human attention in an incredibly significant way. So we really have to integrate ocean literacy. So although I mentioned we only got it into one place in the policy wording itself, it's really integrated throughout. And you can see, well, you may not be able to see the compass, but I did give you guys copies of the compass coaster that we made as a little, I don't know, prop. And the goals are really, these are the 8 goals of our brand new policy. They are to protect marine ecosystems and biodiversity in order to maintain and improve ecological sustainability. You're going to hear ocean literacy in the background of all of these goals, right? They're to conserve cultural heritage, to manage use in an ecologically sustainable manner, to advance effective collaboration for management, to support Indigenous leadership in marine conservation. And by the way, all 7 of the national marine conservation areas that are currently under development are all in collaboration with Indigenous leadership. They are to contribute to the well-being of Indigenous peoples and coastal communities, to facilitate opportunities for meaningful visitor experience. And by meaningful, we really mean experiences that build ocean literacy. That's the point. And to enhance awareness and understanding of national marine conservation areas in order to engage Canadians in marine conservation and reinforce their role as marine stewards. So you can see why the code word for us all through the writing of the policy for that section was ocean literacy. The policy is brand new. We released it only a couple of days ago, but the backstory really of how we managed to integrate ocean literacy so comprehensively into the policy is that when DIS's organization, the coalition, oh my God, I'm going to screw it all up. The Canadian Ocean Literacy Coalition, Parks Canada was, I guess I would call us part of the coalition. We were involved in the development of the Canadian Ocean Literacy Strategy. And then what we decided to do was implement it internally. So we created in the early days an implementation strategy, And you can see examples of the kinds of projects that we have. There are 2 posters in the e-poster thing, one on hashtag Coasty, which is about taking sort of selfies of the coast to monitor coastal change. And another is the cleanup and team up and clean up the shore, which is using a shoreline cleanup kind of mechanism to gather information and data about plastic pollutions. So they're all twinning science and education. Those are things that are currently happening. And there are many more and there's more to come. But I think that the key thing, because I'm getting the signal that I'm done time-wise. The key thing I wanted to reiterate is that the effort we made, I think of socializing the concept of ocean literacy internally. So, you know, at first we're a terrestrial organization historically. So we had to do a lot of work to socialize the idea, just endless meetings with a lot of Parks Canada staff. And the outcome of that is there's 90 of us here at this conference today, which is amazing. But the other outcome is that it wasn't weird when we talked about ocean literacy and policy. And it is not just in policy, it is in as a management directive, which means that when we establish new national marine conservation areas, we are obligated to build a conservation ethic and support ocean literacy in those new national marine conservation areas. That's all I had to say. I encourage everyone to do the same.
I would love to comment, but I will not because we have so many panelists these nights. Now we will go out of conservation and now we are arriving in municipalities, starting with Ronaldo Cristofoletti.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, everybody. So it's a pleasure to be here and also to be able to share a little bit from a global south perspective. And as Patricia mentioned, I will say a little bit about this bridge between science and policy in the municipality level. And that was based on building in the educational level, integrating ocean literacy in the curriculum. So next, please. So the scenario we are talking about is came from a scientific project. They were looking for integrating stakeholders to look for coastal biodiversity. And that started in 2018, at the same time of the planning of the ocean decade. And then through this process of integrating stakeholders and also bringing the ocean literacy for that those stakeholders came out as a policy, the first public policy bringing ocean literacy in a CV that was in Santos, and now we have other 10 cities and 1 state already with that. But what I want to share with you next was the learning of this process. Science policy is not an easy way, and probably few learnings we have had during this process, next please, is first of all, bring the policymakers together. Design with them is to, can't expect they already know what we know, and they will just do that. And most importantly, usually we look for the policymaker, the top one. But we need to look for their staff, the advisors. They need to be iterated. That is the first point. The policymakers need to be our first audience, and not only the top ones, they are advisors. Because when we go for a minute, you'll be really nice, the meeting will be amazing. When we leave the room, they look for an advisor and say, shall I work on this or not? So it's that staff that you decide if that goes on or not. So we need to build with them, connect with them, and that means doing with and not to them. And we need to talk their language. In is votes. That is the point. We need to show them in the next step why their audience, that are the ones that will vote them in the next election, be left for that, because that is the speech they need to bring in the next election and say, I gave you this opportunity. So we need to talk to them in that language. It's not only about saving the world. It's about especially in municipal level. They don't want to save the world. They want to save that city. So we need to show how the impact happens there. So that means thinking globally and acting locally. And another learning means we need to respect. I come from academia, so I start with a research project. And the timing of a research project is not a time of building a law. So governments, researchers, civil society, we have different timing. And of course, I wanted things on my time. I have a report in 6 months. Can we do that? No, wait. Need to understand it. So matching those times, first is seeing them as an audience, being ocean literated, those your learnings, and I will add one more. We need to disseminate that information and put them in the highlights. When we see from the first law in the last slide in the world, in less than 1 year, moving for 12 laws, if from my point of view, who was there in the territory leading this, happened for one reason. If you can even come back one slide, Meg, please, is the print screen that's here. When they were in the Santos, they were not really believing it would be the first law. So I just called Francesca and said, can you please tell them that's the first law, because we know it is. And she recorded a video, and they were like, wow. And UNESCO posting the website. In few months, the other 10 cities were starting because, wow, that is new. UNESCO said that is new. So one post in the UNESCO site had made a change to scaling this up. Of course, bringing back all the process that was going on the territory. But, because it's a highlight, wow, UNESCO said this is important. So let's move on for that. It's not Ronaldo said, or no. It's in the website. So those are learnings, but if I have to keep you one, let's remember, let's first bring in ocean literacy for the policymakers, and then they do the rest. Thank you.
So before going to education, we still continue now with Nicola in municipalities.
Ah, thanks. Yeah, have a fun day if you didn't hear that. Oh, I'm loving the energy of this last session where everyone's just gone a little bit whoop. Yes, that's my name. I work for the Ocean Conservation Trust, and I'm based in Plymouth in the UK. So can I have my crazy brain slide there? So municipalities, local councils, what's going on in the UK in terms of ocean literacy and using ocean literacy as a policy tool. So if you've come to some of the other ocean dialogues or seen all the tweeting that's been going on, you'll probably know that in the UK, Emma and I and others have been working on for 2 years now on a survey to kind of find out about the perceptions, the ocean literacy levels of people that live in the United Kingdom. And what we found from that is, thinking about audiences, there is an audience that's definitely perhaps not quite so ocean literate. They're not doing behaviours that are perhaps pro-ocean, but actually there are a lot of people that are recycling. They are thinking about how they transport themselves around. They do think about what they eat. So that there are people that are doing all of this and they want to know the next step. But it's difficult when you're maybe a member of the public to look at all of the policy out there. You know, if you're somebody living in Plymouth and you want to save the ocean, what do? Write to the Prime Minister of England? Who is that? You know, who could it be? Exactly. Exactly. It's just such this weird, cloudy world of how can I actually make a difference in that respect? And then also we, as the OCT, we run the National Marine Aquarium in Plymouth as well. So we have 300,000 people a year come through our doors. And again, that is reflected in those visitors. They want to help, but what can I do to really make that difference? I feel like I'm doing my small habits at home, but it shouldn't just be about that. And we completely agree. So sitting there, what am I going to do about this? Oh God, I'm going to have to go to the pub. So I went to the pub. I went to the pub with a really amazing woman called Pam Buchan, Dr. Pam Buchan. That picture of her there on the left? No, yeah, left. So she has done her PhD in marine identity theory, marine citizenship. She's amazing, but she's also a councillor in Plymouth City Council. So she had that great knowledge of that local, how you get local policy through, local agreements through. And we were talking, she knew this, another amazing lady called Emily Cunningham, also up there, who worked with all of the, well, 60% of the local coastal councils of the UK. And so the three of us got together and Pam kind of penned this kind of 7-point pledge or ocean recovery declaration. As we started to call it, and it was based a bit on the climate emergency, as you, I'm sure you all know, when that kind of went round the world, local councils and governments declaring a climate emergency. Can we get local governments to declare an ocean recovery emergency? So anyway, Pam wrote this great thing. Emily and I looked at it. We were like, yep, go for it. She took it to Plymouth City Council in November 21, and it was unanimously approved, which was really, really awesome. And then just through the power of social media, we've been very careful. We don't want to make this a real NGO campaign, because we know sometimes if NGOs are pressurizing the government or local councillors, MPs, that cannot go down very well. Through just very careful, quiet sort of comms, we have now got 14 councils that have declared their own recovery. So I know, yeah, it's good, isn't it? Oh, thanks. And what all of those words are there are basically the 7 points within each recovery. Each recovery is different, or each motion is different, I should say, depending on the location and what the areas of importance are in that particular area. But what we do now at the aquarium with our visitors is talk to them. Where do you live? You know, there's 2 options for you. Go on our website, find your local councillor. There's a button you can press, and you can either write to them and say, look at this, can we try and get something where we live to do the same thing? Or if there is an ocean recovery declaration within that local municipality, they're now able to hold those policymakers to account, because they've got things that they can say. Have you said you were going to teach all kids in our city about the ocean? Have you done it? You said you were going to put this on the website. Have you done it? Have you written to the Prime Minister to tell him this is what we need? So where we are with it now, 14 have declared. We've just sent out a survey to the people that work within the councils to find out how they're going with it. And I think really we need now a community of practice, a bit like Ronaldo was saying. We've kind of done it the opposite way round. We now need to start helping them, because people that perhaps work there are not ocean literate. But the idea really is that, you know, the more that this happens, it hopefully starts to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So the more this is embedded at that level, the more local people see what their council is doing around the ocean, and then they become more ocean literate, and in the end it just starts to circle like that, and we're all out of a job. We've saved the ocean. No, that's Dreamworld. That's Dreamworld, but you never know. So that's that. So just really wanted to let you guys know sort of how we're kind of using that tool. And then if I could just have the final slide, I've got 12 seconds. Just wanted to mention this as well, something that Emma and I are heavily involved in the UK, 3 test sites, Portsmouth, Shetland and Chepstow, and looking at how we can use the diverse values, the different ways that people interact with and live in those places, how their relationships with the ocean can be used as a policy tool. So I'm now rambling on a little. So yes, scan that thing, have a look at that. There's loads of people involved and it's really good. And I'm going to stop now because I've got to the end of my energy. There we go.
So ocean literacy is something very dynamic and not linear at all. So after being in conservation and municipality, we come back to the source. So now we go to the education with our dear Francesca Santoro.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm learning a lot in this session. First of all, I'm teetotaler, so I don't go to pubs. Might be a problem. So it's really indeed a pleasure. And I also would like us to take a few seconds to really acknowledge all the results that this community is achieving. Only a few years ago, we were like a tiny community trying to push. And now we had the UN Special Envoy for the Ocean saying, I'm going to write to all ministers of education around the world to say, you need to do it. So I think this is because this community is really a passionate community and able to really make the point that this is key for our future. And this is what I learned in preparing this toolkit. Of course, bringing open literacy into curriculum framework is probably one of the biggest objectives of this community. And so some years ago, I decided to develop a document that could help decision makers, but also ocean literacy practitioners, marine scientists, to see how we could start that process. And I was lucky enough to be able to work with my education colleagues in UNESCO, because, you know, UNESCO is science, education, and culture, and there's a strong education sector that is used to work on curriculum reforms, and I didn't know anything about how to start the process of curriculum reform. So I started to work with them, and also we were in a very interesting moment, which was basically the post-COVID. And although, of course, we were all suffering from COVID, the education sector, which was one of the most impacted sectors by COVID, took advantage of that terrible situation to rethink about, you know, what is education for all of us. And so UNESCO launched this, the Future of Education initiative, and that helped us really thinking how we could bring ocean literacy in this wider discussion on the future of education. Next slide, please, Meg. So what is the ambition for a blue curriculum? So we call it a blue curriculum. So we actually want, of course, the inclusion of ocean literacy in all school curriculum. We want the support of education stakeholders to address ocean literacy through formal education. And also we want to prepare the next generation of blue professionals. Lately, I've been talking with some representatives of governments, and I think, and very much linked to the previous panel, the blue economy, blue careers thing can be a very important, a very useful entry point for this community to try to make the point that we are going to prepare the next generation of blue professionals in any sectors. I'm not only talking about marine scientists, but, you know, professionals that can help us making this blue economy section thriving. And of course, empower governments and policymakers and educational stakeholders. Next slide, please, Mike. Of course, as you all know, we are in the context of the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, and working on a blue curriculum is going to also help us working on the outcomes and the challenges of the decade, and in particular, the challenge 10, which is how we change humanity's relationship with the ocean. Next slide. So, and we have seen some examples, and of course, Ronaldo is bringing a very good example here of, you know, a municipality starting and other municipalities coming. So there is a movement starting, but of course we need to work towards, you know, the idea of having this more mainstream and not something that happened in one place or only in one country or only in one municipality. We really want to be ambitious and have this throughout the world. So next slide. Of course, we want to make sure that, as I said, we use what is happening overall in the discussion in the education sector, and so bringing some of these trends in curriculum framework. And that's why, next slide, please, Meg. I'm constant of time. I only have 15 seconds. Oh my God. So I will be very quick. So basically, in the end, I was part of a team writing this toolkit, and I struggle a lot because the other person working with me from the academia, marine sciences background, wanted to only work on knowledge, so increasing students' knowledge on the ocean. And so I said, this is not what I want. I really want to make sure that we use or we think, what is our vision? What do we want the kids of tomorrow, the professional of tomorrow, what skills do we want them to have? And so we decided to build this theory of change with 4 elements, in which knowledge, of course, is there because it has to be there. It's an important component, but also we wanted to work on values and attitude and increase nature connectedness of course, ocean, but not only ocean, and also skills, because we want to empower, we want the kids to be empowered and to make sure that they can use that knowledge that we're gonna teach them to drive solutions. And no matter if they are from kindergartens to high school or university students, we really want to be empowered and to give them the right skills to be able to be part of this change that we all want to achieve, not only at the end of the ocean decade, but also beyond this 2030 agenda. So I think it's really important that this community understand that education is, or, curriculum, and people working on curriculum reforms receive a lot of requests. There are many topics to be included in curriculum. So we need to make sure that they understand why this is so important. And for this, we need to make sure that we create a global campaign so that it's going to be a request from the society to policymakers to include ocean literacy in curriculum frameworks, because this is going to be part of the society we want and the ocean we want, or the ocean, the humanity. What was that? the human and the ocean, the humanity that the ocean will want. Thank you so much. Education is so important that we're staying there a bit more now with Carlos Fanta, that is reaching us from Chile online. Carlos, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and my apologies for being without video, but during the trials with Vancouver, my internet was very, very unstable. So very good evening to all, and many thanks for the invitation to this conversation about ocean literacy as a policy tool, trying to contribute to transform some ideas in actions. Through this participatory process and co-production of knowledge, as was mentioned yesterday by Francesca. During the next 5 minutes, we will have a conversation about the ocean literacy strategy that I proposed for Chile, which was published in the annual review of the Chilean Maritime League in its last edition, and also was included in the UNESCO Ocean Literacy webpage as a contribution for the ocean decade. I would like to note and emphasize that all the priority areas and the initiatives proposed in the strategy can be replicated in any country with some adjustment according to its particular scenario, a specific culture, or a specific reality. Why an ocean literacy strategy as a public policy for Chile? Next, please, Meg. Firstly and foremost, because the current Chilean ocean policy update in 2018 explicitly recognized in its text the non-existence of ocean literacy in our society. Secondly, from a global perspective, because the UN Ocean Decade Implementation Plan 2021 explicitly states that effort during the decade will include development of national ocean literacy strategies. Other fact is that there is a considerable gap between current Chilean curriculum basis and ocean literacy principles and concepts, and also with the UNESCO SDG learning objectives. In addition, various investigation and research papers during the last 10 years conclude that most Chileans have little maritime awareness and low ocean literacy knowledge. Also, Chile adopted from the beginning and is fully committed with the 2030 agenda and its SDG 14, and participate in different international initiatives of the Ocean Panel. Yes, Peter went to go to the dinner of the Ocean Panel. Chile is part of the Ocean Panel, the Blue Leaders Organization, and also the Because the Ocean Initiative, all of them linked to the ocean protection and ocean education. Finally, because Chile has fragmented ocean literacy matters in different national strategies and plans, which need to be integrated, such as the National Oceanographic Plan, the National Biodiversity Strategy, and the Long-Term Climate Strategy. The proposed, next please, the proposed ocean literacy strategy has a structure that integrates national and international reference. Next please, Megan. This strategy defines the vision, have a mission, specify four priority areas on which efforts must be concentrated, and establish 19 specific initiatives with measurable key performance indicators. The national reference that we use in the strategy is the Ocean Policy, Chilean Ocean Policy, or Ocean Plan, Oceanographic Plan, a Strategy of Biodiversity, the Chilean Curriculum Basis for Early Childhood, Basic and Secondary Education, and the Long-Term Climate Strategy. By the other hand, the next please, the international references that we use are the UN Ocean Decade Implementation Plan, the UN 2030 Agenda, the Ocean Literacy Framework for the UN Ocean Decade, and finally, as was mentioned by Francesca, a new blue curriculum, a toolkit for policymakers, published yes in 2022. Next, please. The vision of the strategy is to have in the future, in the next 10 years, a society connected to Chilean Sea, aware and committed to the importance of our oceanic heritage. And the mission established is to implement and manage ocean literacy in Chile in an effective and systemic way, with the purpose of having a sustainable ocean that will be known, valued, understood, and protected by all sectors of the Chilean society. Next, please. The fourth priority areas are the same that are explicitly mentioned in the UN implementation plan. First, policy formulation. Second, formal education. Third, corporate action. And fourth, community engagement. The first, next one, please. The first priority area, I would like to mention only the objective, have 6 initiatives. And the objective of this priority number 1, policy formulation, is to incorporate and integrate ocean literacy in the formulation of public policies, legal and institutional framework of the country. Next, please. The second priority area number 2, formal education, includes 4 initiatives and has the objective of strengthening ocean training and formal marine education in the schools, with a multidisciplinary cross-cutting approach, as you can see in the slide. Next, please. The priority area number 3, corporate actions, include 5 initiatives and has the objective of promote awareness of organizations, civil society, and corporate citizenship with ocean literacy, so its actions are connected and committed to the need of a sustainable ocean. Finally, priority area number 4, next please, Meg, is community involvement and engagement. Includes 4 initiatives and has the objective of develop tools for citizen participation with community representativeness and involvement, and with access to associative networks. Finally, next, please, I would like to emphasize again that all the 19 initiatives of the 4 priority areas can be replicated in any country, making some adjustment or particular to its particular scenario or a specific culture or reality. Many thanks again for this invitation. I am ready to some questions if there are. Many thanks again.
Thank you so much, Carlos. Now we'll navigate very fast to talk about marine shipping with Megan. Please, Megan, you can take the waters. In the mic.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to try to balance my notes here so that I don't get completely off track and
go over time because recognizing we're probably getting to the end of our session. So I'm Megan Matheson. I'm the Director of Strategy and Innovation for Clear Seas. Thank you. And I'm here to bring the perspective of marine shipping to today's conversation about ocean literacy and policy. So I'd like to start off by acknowledging that I live, work, and play on the traditional lands and waters of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples, and I'm grateful for their stewardship since time immemorial. So our next slide, please. So marine shipping carries most of the world's trade. It provides substantial economic benefits, but continues to be a largely invisible industry to most people. However, shipping traffic and activities at ports are a major stressor to the environment and are also a threat to healthy ecosystems and the biodiversity that they support. As the international community is working to achieve the 2030 ocean protection target, the growing number of marine protected areas will increasingly overlap with marine shipping travel lanes and other activities. So achieving conservation goals is going to require understanding ship activity and how it relates to natural processes and managing shipping in the context of other uses of the ocean. So through measures like restricting waste discharges and preventing the transfer of aquatic invasive species, conservation efforts are already regulating ship activity to help reduce its impacts. Effective management of ocean use requires a deep understanding of marine shipping activity to be able to achieve the dual objectives of a thriving marine economy. And I feel like I'm getting some feedback here. I apologize for that. Healthy ocean ecosystems. So as we embark on marine spatial planning efforts, new conservation actions, and other policies, shipping data must be included. So about a decade ago, the idea of an independent, fact-based source of information on marine shipping issues was imagined for Canada. Clear Seas Centre for Responsible Marine Shipping was the outcome, and we seek to inform and engage the general public and policymakers on topics related to marine shipping impacts on people, the environment, in a clear, accessible way to raise the level of literacy on marine shipping topics. Sorry, next slide. There we go. So our Clear Seas website attracts more than 30,000 people per year, which is a mix of government, academic, industry, and community members to engage with our content, including we have some interactive key issues pages, we have informative articles, and some in-depth research reports to meet the needs of our various audiences. So we strongly believe that better information leads to better decisions. As an example, we contributed several recommendations to Canada's Blue Economy Strategy in the last year, namely to encourage effective outreach and public education, particularly in the complex and expensive path to decarbonization for marine shipping, and also the multifaceted area of marine spatial planning. Next slide. So in addition to drawing public attention to shipping issues, Clear Seas has conducted a biannual public opinion poll with the Angus Reid Institute since 2016 to try to measure what Canadians are thinking about different aspects of marine shipping in Canada. I've selected a few of the results to discuss here as relates to ocean literacy and policy. The full reports are available on our website, which I encourage everybody to go and look at, of course. So nearly all of Canadians, 91%, believe that shipping is done safely in the waters surrounding the country. And this has been a steady result since we first started asking about this in 2016. And as shown on the graph on the slide, we have a steadily increasing proportion, now 62% of Canadians, who believe that marine shipping's importance to Canada is growing. So there's a growing awareness of the role that shipping plays in Canadian economy and potentially the environment as well. However, we still do have some concerns from potential impacts about marine shipping activity. Next. So to take a more nuanced look at some of these concerns about marine shipping activity in Canadian waters, this chart shows how these concerns have evolved since they were first charted in 2016. So concerns about oil and fuel spills and general water pollution have actually decreased, and concerns about marine life endangerment, risks to the coastal environment, and pollution in ports and harbors have increased. The query about ships dumping waste or garbage and the other one about risk to the Arctic environment are both new in 2022, so they don't have a comparative line there. But the one about ship waste scored particularly high, and this could possibly reflect a growing understanding about and concern about the impact of shipping operations on the marine environment, particularly the large quantities of sewage, gray water, and scrubber wash water that are produced by cruise ships, which is one of the more visible aspects of the marine shipping industry. So following from these results, we are suspecting that as awareness is increasing, concerns amongst the public are also increasing. So the Government of Canada is responding to this heightened public concern about shipping waste with new restrictions on cruise ship waste disposal in coastal waters. And these restrictions were tested out as a voluntary measure in 2022. And with very high compliance from the industry, they're now going to be mandatory in 2023, starting with when the cruise ship season starts in May. So to wrap up, Clear Seas is striving to achieve a world where policymakers and the public are equipped with the data and the information that they need and want to be able to allow them to engage in meaningful conversations and dialogue to contribute to informed decision-making on marine shipping issues. We're seeing a growing ocean literacy as an important factor to create policy that comprehensively addresses marine shipping issues and impacts on the marine environment.
Wow, too many things, too many. Here we just had 4 areas talking about that. I think we could organize a whole Congress just talking about how ocean literacy can be implemented as a policy in so many areas. I don't know if we have time for the questions. I saw we have a question online. I don't know how we are. This, Megan, what do we do? Okay.
Okay, one quick question's coming from Juliana. The toolkit for policymakers, is it currently or will it become available in other languages?
Yes, I mean, we have received requests to translate it into Portuguese. Is almost done. I'm just hearing now. And French is going to be another language that is going to be ready soon, and Spanish. So the main UN languages. But of course, if anyone is willing to, produce the translate the toolkit in his or her own language, I'm available. So please contact me, Juliana, and we can develop it together.
Some more seconds. Any other question? What do we do? I had many, but I think we will not have time. So time to close, maybe go outside, start talking a little bit. If you have informal questions to our panelists, we can just join them outside. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Can I say something just before you leave? Because this was the last session. So I really want to thank Dees and Emma and Meg and
There's we all know in this room, nothing gets done without a team. And so I just want to share particularly Neri and Meg, none of this would have happened without their leadership. And yeah, we've got Jen in the back who right from day one started to map out what the ocean literacy dialogues would look like. So thank you so much. And there's a lot many more team. And Mary, if you're still in the room, since this is the last one, would everyone just come up front for one photo to kind of mark the end of the series? Of all you up here. Thank you everyone for joining tonight.